everyone, and welcome back to the Coach Dave Academy Gran Turismo channel. I'm Martin Grady, otherwise known as Tijney, and once again I'm going to be looking at the daily races this week on Gran Turismo 7. Some interesting races. We're going to start off with Brands Hatch Indy though, and we're in the Mazda 3. So a very short circuit, a very slow car, front wheel drive, but there are tricks to get this car around the circuit as quick as possible. And we're going to go through those tricks. We're going to go through a slow lap, then a fast lap, so essentially speeding it up to 100%, and we're going to have a look at some Delta data as well. Let's jump into this lap guide then, and let me tell you how to go around Brands Hatch Indy as quick as possible. So here we are on the start-finish straight. Notice I'm already on the left-hand side of the circuit. Kind of critical we start with a good line heading towards turn 1. Now for turn 1, Paddock Hill Bend, on the left-hand side we have this Marshall. It's just after the 2 board. You can also see the shed there on the left-hand side. Now what I want you to do here is I want you to stay in 4th gear, and I want you to brake and then start to trail brake as we head towards the corner. Remember, it's front wheel drive, so your front wheels now are really important because they're going to be accelerating, braking and turning in this car. It's not, your rear wheels aren't doing anything here. So what I want you to do, again, trail brake into this corner, and then I want you to release the brakes and let the car roll. Watch here. Notice I'm trail braking very quickly, and then I'm going to release. I'm going to let the car roll. Let the car roll. Continue to let it roll. I clip the curb, and once I know I can make the corner, I'm then going to accelerate. Watch here, I actually do clip the dirt on the left hand side, but because I only clip it, the car continues to maintain some speed as I go through the corner. We get to this point here then, which is your next braking zone. Now I've highlighted the red painted barrier here on the left hand side, but I'd argue that's a little bit too early. The Palmer Sport though, as it goes to the top of your screen and actually starts to disappear off the top of your screen, that to me is a better brake marker. Now what I want you to do here is I want you to drop down the gears, but stay out wide a little longer than normal. Normally here for Druids, you come in nice and tight, but if you stay out wide a little bit longer, it allows the car weight to transition, allows the car to rotate into the corner, and you can maintain a bit more speed. So notice here, I'm towards the left hand side a bit longer here. I get to 2nd gear, start to release the brakes. Now let the car roll once again. I get to 40 miles an hour and I go to 50% throttle. That allows me to carry just that additional bit of speed here. On the exit, I short shift. The reason for that is because I'm turning the wheel like this, it's very easy for the wheels to spin up at that point because they're just doing too much. They're like, oh, I can't do it anymore. So if you short shift, you maintain the increased acceleration without hitting the rev limiter. Now we get to Graham Hill Bend here. We have the 1 board and the green on the right hand side. This is your brake marker for the left-hander. Once again, what I want you to do here is I want you to hit the brakes initially and start to release them straight away. And make sure you're turning left. The whole idea here is we want the car to turn into the corner. Now when it starts to turn in, and when you can feel the car rotate, I want you to release the brakes completely and just let the car roll again. Because what you're trying to do is let the wheels do its own thing. So there I went on the brakes, I've released it, I'll let the car roll now. I noticed the car's rotated, I've clipped the inside very nicely, and I'm going to use all of the curb and then some on the exit. The dark green there, that is curb, it counts as track here on Gran Turismo 7. You can use all of that and we can maintain the speed. We're going to accelerate up here now then. We have the 1 board on the right, make sure you turn in just before you get to that 1 board here. Use all of the curb on the inside, notice we're in 4th gear now as we go through here. And then we're going to get to this point here. So I'm going to stop the lap at this moment. We have the dark brown there on the right side. Literally, this is your brake marker. What I want you to do is hit the brakes and then instantly start to release the brakes. I'm in 4th gear right now. You're going to drop to 3rd gear. Arguably, you could drop to 2nd gear for this corner if you wish, but you need to make sure on the exit you're in 3rd gear really, because you're going to suffer some understeer and the wheel spin if you're in 2nd gear. But I use the dark brown patch there on the right hand side as my brake marker as I come into this corner. You're going to notice here how I trail brake. Notice I'm trail braking here. 3rd gear, still trail braking, and then I let the car start to do its own thing. Now we get to around 50 miles an hour, I start to accelerate. At this moment in time, I'm below the power band, so I'm not suffering any understeer, but it allows me to stay at 100% throttle. I get very close to the edge of the circuit, and what I'm going to do is come back towards the inside. This is the shortest distance to the line right now, so I'm going to stay towards that inside as we head towards the line, and that is going to be a 57.3. Let's go to a fast lap then. Remember, we're using the Marshall box on the left-hand side, we hit the brakes, 4th gear, we then release brakes, let the car roll, then start to accelerate. If you clip the dirt, don't worry, just make sure you don't do all 4 wheels into the dirt. So Palmer Sport, as it disappears off the top of your screen, down the gears now. Second gear, start to release the brakes, let the car roll, 40 miles an hour, start to accelerate. Short shift on the exit, very critical you short shift. Head over towards the right hand side, the one board or the green there, we're going to hit the brakes, turn in, let the car roll, clip the inside, use all the curb on the exit as we come back onto the circuit now. Look for the one board, turn in just before the one board, make sure you go up to 4th gear as well. Use all the curb on the left hand side. Straighten up now, dark brown patch, we hit the brakes. 3rd gear, now we're just trail brake, bleeding off this speed to 50 miles an hour. Then we start to accelerate now. Use all of the circuit, just make sure you don't understeer off into the gravel. Head over towards the right hand side. Remember, take an inside line here, very critical in terms of shortening that distance to the line. And once again, that is a 0.3. Let's jump to some Delta data now. Let's see where we can improve that little bit more. So what I've done here then is I've uploaded and captured the fastest lap on the leaderboard that I can at the moment, which is a 57.132. Nearly 0.3 of a second quicker than mine. So it's a short lap. Plenty of time to be found here on this lap. Let's jump into Delta properly then. Let's go through this lap and let's find out exactly where we are losing the time. So we're going to head towards turn number 1 here then. As we brake, we're going to go through the speed here. And we've just bled off a bit too much speed here versus that reference lap. Look at that, 2 miles an hour difference. So we're already starting to lose time as we go through here. Now, in the middle of the corner, we're about even. I'm a little bit ahead there. And as we continue to go through the corner, I actually lose time here. So because I don't go on throttle, I let the car roll a little bit more, which I said to do. And I still advise that you do that. That is where I'm losing a little bit of time. So they just got a bit more aggressive on throttle there as we continue on through. And by the exit there, they've gained a tiny bit of time. Nothing major, though, because we already start a little bit ahead there at the start of the lap. So by the end of it, we're about the same in terms of time lost. It's just that on the entry of the corner, at least here, I slow the car down a bit more. In the middle of the corner, I'm going a bit quicker. And on the exit, we're then about even. So it's fine. Different ways to take the corner there. I also spotted they went down to 3rd gear there. You can just see that next to the cog there. So literally, they did the 3rd to 4th gear. I stayed in 4th gear. It's about the same. Pick and choose how you do it. I do suggest, though, making sure you just roll for that little bit longer just to make sure the car gets round. We're going to head towards Druid's End. So we're going through Druid's here. Let's have a look on the exit. This is where we're losing all the time here. Let's really focus on this corner then. So we're coming into here. I'm on the brakes a bit earlier than they are. As we go into this corner then. Yeah, I'm just literally slowing the car. In fact, I actually stop slowing the car down as much as they do. And on the exit, they are in 2nd gear. So this is where I short shifted probably a bit too early, to be honest with you, just by a tiny bit. And they benefit there from a bit more acceleration by 1 mile an hour. So it's something that I need to work on here, especially on the entrance as well. I seem to lose a little bit of time there. So in terms of the braking, yeah, they're just braking that little bit later and they're just managing to bleed off the speed a little bit better than I am. So I need to focus on the braking into Druids. In terms of lines here, by the way, should we have a look at lines as we go into here? Lines are the same as well. So yeah, it's just about braking into Druids. I just need to improve that. They're staying out wide the same as I am. They're just trail braking that little bit longer. Very interesting stuff. So we're down here by 0.5 tenth. We're going to head towards Graham Hill. As we go through Graham Hill, we lose a lot of time there. Nearly 1/10 of a second as we go through there. What happens here then? So we're on the brakes a lot sharper, a bit earlier than they are. So we're already losing a bit of speed there. And in fact, they don't drop below 63 miles an hour. Where we do there. That's it. That's very interesting indeed in terms of that as we go through there. Let's zoom back out of this one. Sorry, I just clicked into that. Yeah, so literally they're just carrying more speed through Graham Hill. And they're taking a slightly wider line than I did. And that seems to benefit them more on the exit to be able to carry that bit more speed. Very interesting. So I need to improve on the braking at Druids. Carrying the speed through Graham Hill, which is understandable. We're going to head towards the final corner now. As we go through there. Ooh, yes, it's another good 0.5 tenth or so there. But they take a slightly wider line. Does that benefit them that little bit more? That's interesting as well. So I think I need to take a wider line coming into this corner. Because what's happening here, and this is what's so good about Delta, is they're taking a wider line. They can straighten up the car that little bit more as they go through the corner. Whereas I'm suffering with a bit of understeer, aren't I? So they go up wide. And what that means is they're going to carry more speed here. If we follow the speed through, they've consistently got 1 mile an hour more than me. And this car is such low horsepower that mile an hour counts. And you can see there, the yellow line. Out a bit wider now. I'm just coming in a bit too tight. So that's one recommendation there. Last corner, just take a slightly wider line. Don't go fully wide, but you definitely stay towards the middle of the circuit that a bit longer to then come through the corner. You can see there, they then get to go on the inside, and then they can just carry all that speed to the line there where it's 2.5 temps essentially. So I have 3 of the 4 corners I need to improve on. The first one, I'm absolutely fine. Druids, I need to break that a little bit later. Graham Hill, I just need to carry a bit more speed. And for the final one, take a slightly wider line. I've learned 3 things there from Delta, and that's what it's all about. I love Delta for this. So really good stuff there. Something you can look to improve on your lap there as well. So, you know, focus on your braking into Druids, focus on carrying speed through Graham Hill, and focus on your line on the last corner. Those 3 tips should help you out here at Brands Hatch Indy in the Mazda 3. That's it for Daily Race A then. We're going to jump to Daily Race B, where we're going to head to Willow Springs, and we are in Group 4 machinery. So here we are down the start-finish straight. I'm in the Alfa Romeo 4C plus 5 brake balance that you can see on that bottom right-hand side. Now, you need to be on the right-hand side there. I had to quickly switch over to this right-hand side because I just did a fast lap. Now, I use on the left-hand side that brake marker there, the second-to-last large pole on the left-hand side of that catch fence. That's my brake marker. You can use that billboard I've highlighted on the right. However, I use that post there. And what I want to do here is I want to hit the brakes, drop to 4th gear, and just chuck the car into the corner. Now, this corner is cambered. You can just see that on chase cam, just the way it's banked slightly, okay? So you really need to get on the inside of this corner. You can go over the curb on this particular corner, but there are other corners on the circuit where you can't in this Alfa Romeo 4C. Notice there how I really shut the car in. I'm instantly going on the throttle there to try and maintain speed through the corner. You just have to be careful on the exit. Don't run wide there because it's very easy to just get pulled off then into the dirt. We head over towards the left-hand side. Then we're going to pull in towards this right-hand side here. And I just stopped it here. Now, this is a very interesting moment on this circuit because I'm going flat out into this corner. And what I'm going to do when I get to that point on the corner is I'm going to lift off and drop to 4th gear. Now, what this does is the lift off forces the weight to transition a little bit, and the 4th gear allows the car to rotate a little bit more. Now, rather than brake, lifting off is actually better because it's more consistent. If you lift off, you're always 0% at that time. If you brake in, you might go 100%, you might go 90% next time, etc. So watch what I do here. I lift off and I'm in 4th gear now. And now I'm trying to balance the throttle. Notice it wasn't 100% off throttle, but it was a case of just reducing that speed. Now, what I've been looking for throughout this entire corner is that radio tower right there. What that tells me is that I'm roughly around halfway through this corner and I need to start accelerating now to try and get the speed up in the car. Now, because I'm on the inside, on the right-hand side here of the circuit, what happens here is that I've got more grip, and you notice it's slightly cambered as well. So what my plan here is to just start accelerating, use that radio tower as a bit of a judgment. Now, if I start to understeer out wide, I lift off a little bit. Notice that I'm lifting off a little bit because I feel the car's just lifting or going out wide. Then it comes back very nicely. So we pull it back towards the inside now, and then we can start straightening up the steering. As you see right there, I start straightening up steering and I use all of the circuit. That means the front wheels are not scrubbing the speed. I can just carry that bit more speed. We head over towards the right-hand side now then. What we're looking for here is that 50 board. Now, for this corner, it's very easy to turn in a little bit too early. Now, if you turn in a bit too early, what happens is you're just going to understeer off on the exit. What's actually better is if you go for a later apex. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit the brakes and I'm going to aim for the middle of the circuit rather than the inside, the middle, and that just gives me a little bit of room then to keep the car turning in towards the corner. I say you don't want to turn in too early here. Watch what I do right now as we go into this corner. I'm going to hit the brakes, I'm going to drop a gear straight away. I'm going to drop down to 3rd gear from memory, I think it is. 4th gear, 3rd gear, there we go. We start to lift off. Notice how we stayed out wide. We're still coming in, still coming in, still coming in. There's the apex. Now, I could have gone a little bit more over to the left. What you're going to find here is I'll just run a little bit too much to the right here, and I have to lift off. What you really should happen is I should be full throttle at that point to this point here. Now, the end of the curb on the right hand side here is either one of 2 things. It's a lift off marker or a brake marker. Now, it's your choice what you do here, and it also depends on the car you are using in terms of whether it's a brake marker or lift off marker. I find lifting off is better for the same reason of the previous corner that I talked about, where if you lift off, you're guaranteed to have the same percentage of input every time. Whereas if you brake, you might do 100%, you might do 90%. And what you find then is it might get a bit inconsistent with the weight transfer. Let's say I lift off. So the car rotates. I'm eager to get on throttle, but now I can get on throttle because I'm going to make it around the corner. If you do run wide there and go in the dirt, going to be a bit of a struggle. What you're going to see now is I'm going to head over towards the right-hand side. Now, this is an interesting one. You don't have to cut this corner the way I do. It's safer to stay to the left-hand side of this curb, especially in the Alfa Romeo 4C. However, to get the maximum lap time, you do have to cut it like I'm doing right here. And now the end of the curb is my brake marker, but notice I'm braking before I get to it. What you are going to see here is I'm in 4th gear, and I'm going to stay in 4th gear until I'm past the end of the curb right there, until I'm coming back on the circuit. The reason for that is I want to reduce any weight transfer in this car. So that's what I'm going to do right now, okay? I'm going to brake in a straight line, and then as I come back on the circuit, I'm going to drop to 3rd gear then, and then start turning in towards the corner. The delayed turn helps there. If you go over the curb here in the Alfa 4C, your lap is over. It'll bounce you off the circuit. It's horrendous. Don't go over the curb right there. But notice how, because I turned a bit later, I delayed that gear shift. The car remained settled. I went through the corner absolutely fine, and I maximised the speed through the corner. We're going to put it to 100% speed now as we head towards the final corner. This is a long, long right-hander. You can see it on the track map there in the top right-hand side. It's long. So keep towards the inside initially. You start to see that Toyota building in the distance. We head over towards the left-hand side, and I've stopped it right here. There are 2 markers, and you use both of these markers. The first one is the 150 board. This is your lift-off marker. You can see now my inputs. I've just started to lift off. I lift off and let the car just gradually turn in. It stabilizes the weight in the car as well. When the 100 board hits the edge of my screen, that's when I'm going to dab the brakes. And I'm only going to dab the brakes, okay? I'm going to stay in 5th gear as well to reduce any weight transfer. Notice throughout this entire lap, I've always talked about weight transfer in this car. Very easy to just cause issues here. You don't want sliding. So we're going to lift off at the 150 board. There we go. And then after the 100 board, we've hit the brakes there. We just dab the brakes. We're controlling the car now. And we've got under 120. I feel I can accelerate at this moment in time. Don't go over the curb on the inside. It'll bounce you off. But I got very close to it here. And I can run off the corner now. Now, stay towards the left-hand side to reduce your distance to the line, or head over towards the right-hand side if you want to improve on your lap. Now, my last lap was a 0.2. This lap is a 0.197. So very close to each other. Consistency is there. So second to last post on the left is what I use here. 4th gear, brake, turn in, really trying to abuse the camber. Head over towards the left-hand side now. Remember, as we turn into this corner here, we're going to drop to 4th gear on the bit there, and we lift off. Here, we're looking for the radio tower now. There's the radio tower. Let's start being aggressive with the throttle. Let's get the car turned back in. Get towards that inside. Keep the car turning. Now straighten up the wheel. Head over towards the right side. Remember, looking for the 50 board. Aim for the middle of the track initially here. Hard on the brakes. 3rd gear. Start to release the brakes. Turn in now. Let the car roll. Now accelerate through the corner. Head over towards the right side. End of the curve there. Lift off. Lift off. Lift off. Let the car roll. Roll, roll, roll. We get towards the apex. We can start to accelerate. Head over towards the right side. Remember, the end of the curve here is our marker. We brake before that. Straight line. Change gear. Once we're back on the circuit, continue on through. Now accelerate. Now you can breathe. You've just got 1 corner to go. Now, I ruined a couple of laps because I was too aggressive in this last corner. Very critical. You just follow my guidance here in terms of what I said. Remember, the 150 board is your lift-off marker. The 100 board is your brake marker. Remember that as you go through here. Okay, so let's head over towards that left-hand side now. There's the 250 board. There's the 200. There's 150 lift. There's 100. Now brake. Brake, brake, brake. Now accelerate through the corner and continue on towards the line. And hopefully you've got the fastest lap you've ever had here at Willow Springs Big Willow. Right, that is the lap guide done. What we're going to do now is jump to Delta, and we're going to have a look to see where we can improve and see where we can get that bit more time. So once again, I've loaded up the fastest lap on the leaderboard, which does get down into the 117. So fair play to this driver. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but I mean, this is unbelievable stuff here. They're 0.2 of a second quicker than me. So we need to find out where those 0.2 of a second are, and we'll do that in Delta. So let's start the lap here then, as we head towards turn number 1. And already they're carrying a bit more speed here. So they've had a better last corner. So there's something to keep in mind. That are they better at the last corner than me? We go through there. There's no real difference there. To be honest, it's a small amount of time in the grand scheme of it. I'm not too worried about turn 1 there at all. The middle of the corner. Looks like, yeah, we're about even there. We are about even. On the exit, they're a bit quicker. I was a bit quicker in the middle of the corner. So we're going to head towards this right-hander. We are, what, 200ths down there as we go into this corner. They carry a bit more speed into it, but notice the inside line they take there. That does look like they get a better line through the corner. And I did talk about that. You want an inside line, and they nail that beautifully. They really do. And in terms of accelerating, so we get to this point here. We're carrying about the same speed. They've just got, oh, and then I've got a bit too early on the throttle. That's what that is there. And then they keep towards the inside. Because they've got inside line, they can straighten up the steering a bit more. Therefore, they're not scrubbing the speed. And they come out that corner. We come out equal, but throughout the entirety of that corner, I'm trying to bring the car back. Whereas they've already brought the car back. So they've actually got an advantage at that point. Right, okay, so we're 700 down by that point. It's just good to know. I'm going to head towards this left-hander now. As we come into here, I'm definitely more aggressive through there. However, on the exit, it appears they just do that a little bit better than me on the exit. Yeah, they're just carrying a bit more speed once again as we go into this right-hander. Now, I did notice that they do hit the brakes a little bit here. Only a tiny bit. They've dropped a second gear as well to get some rotation there. Does that benefit them? Not really. So they've gone aggressive into this bit here, which is where they gain the time. But that time then comes back to me here. So in the grand scheme of it, I don't really lose that much time there. That's not a place I'm going to consider important in terms of my lap. It is a place you do need to look at, though. They've just gone a bit more aggressive, but it shows you the aggression isn't worthwhile in this section. It's all about getting round this corner here. Now, as we head down towards what I effectively call the kink, we're going to go through this corner now. And by the end of it, we're exactly the same. So they don't lose time. I don't lose time there. That's all good. So we must lose it in the last corner then. So we're going to accelerate all the way to the last corner now then. And this is where I said about lift off. Remember, you got to lift off. So who lifts off first? We come into here. We lift off at the exact same time. So that is a good marker, the 150 board I talked about. And then we're going to get to the 100 board here. And I'm on the brakes first. I brake that a little bit more than them. So critically, as we come into this corner, and I did mention it, so 100 board is your sort of brake marker. Look at the difference there. 39 versus 13%. So they're obviously looking to carry more speed through the corner. They're doing that right now. They're 5-6 miles an hour quicker. They're just carrying a bit more speed as they go through the corner. And then they gain an extra temp. So my focus is going to be on that last corner. I do suggest that you focus on the last corner as well. It's very critical you get that right because it also helps your next lap as well. And you can quite clearly see there, they've just benefited from so much speed. And we saw at the start of the lap, they were already ahead as we went into turn 1. So my focus, and a place where I do feel you should focus as well, is this last turn. Just trying to reduce your braking as much as possible. Remember, lift off at the 150 board. We lift off at the exact same time there, so that's a critical marker. We know he's right. As we get into here, we're braking at the same point. They're just braking less. So you give that a try as well. Good part about Delta, we can identify that in terms of the information that we are given. That's going to be it for Daily Race B, though. We're going to head to Daily Race C, where we're going to head to Tokyo, and we're going to be in some Group 3 machinery. Now, this track is a difficult one. So here we are on the start-finish straight. I'm in the Toyota GR Super Racing Concept, and using +5 brake balance that you can see on that right-hand side. As we head towards turn 1, there are 2 brake markers here you can use. We've got the highway markers underneath the 50 sign there, or you could use the 50 sign. Entirely your choice. They're basically at the same point. Now, with this one, it's all about carrying speed, using the downforce of the car, but you don't want to turn in too early. So what you want to do here is you want to drop down to 4th gear as you go through this corner, but you'll just be trail braking, just trying to bleed off that speed. And the reason for that is that if you try and brake too much, you'll turn in and hit the barrier and that'll force you outside. And that's going to happen a lot on a lot of these corners, so do keep that in mind. So here we go, 4th gear, we took it in. Okay, now you can just see that we're trying to bleed the speed off, then we accelerate through the corner. I could do that quicker, I really could, but I just bled off a bit too much speed. We'll probably see that in Delta when we have a look at it later on, but we're going to continue now towards the dots. At this moment in time, you can breathe. Turn 1, job done. But there's a lot of time to be gained here, and remember to short shift the Toyota Supra. It requires a short shift. I found that if I was over revving it, I was losing half a tenth of a second there, so just be careful of that. Now we get to this point here. Now I'm using the 100 as a bit of a distance marker because in my peripheral vision I can see the lamppost I've highlighted on the right hand side. That is my brake marker. When that hits the edge of my screen, I'm looking at the 100, but when I see that lamppost hit, I'm going to hit the brakes. Now, with this one, you want to point towards the corner. Because it's a multiple apex corner, it's all about hitting every single apex on this. You don't want to miss any of them. You hit every single one, you're going to nail this part of the track. It's known as the dots area. So watch this now. So we're going to drop down the gears. We dropped the second gear here. Notice how we release the brakes and we come in. We clip the first apex. Brilliant. Now we release the brakes. We let the car turn. We're going to accelerate a little bit. That gets a bit of rotation with the wheel spin there just to rotate the car. We hit the second apex. We short shift to 3rd gear. Gives the car some stability now. We head over towards the right hand side. 2 wheels have to remain on the red and white curb in there, which we do. We then head over towards the left. We've hit every single apex. We've really abused the track limits as much as we can there. We had a little bit of a slide on the exit. You do have to be careful of that. But the critical part of that whole corner was hitting every single apex. The first 2 were 2nd gear. The second 2 were 3rd gear. Keep that in mind. We'll go through it again when we get to our fast lap. So we approach this corner here. Now, the 50 board arguably is a bit too soon to brake, in my opinion. Because if you brake here and turn in, you're going to hit the barrier on the inside, or the wall on the inside. It's not really a barrier. Now, there's some highway markers a bit later on. They are what I would use. And what I want you to do here is I want you to hit the brakes and drop to 4th gear. You can drop to third gear and it will reduce some of the understeer, because if you do this corner in fourth gear, you suffer some understeer. So what you often find is you've got to brake twice just to get some rotation in the car. But third gear, you don't need to do that. But third gear, unfortunately, will mean that you're probably going to hit the inside. So notice here, I hit the brakes twice. Once I've then settled the car on the inside, I start to accelerate. Very common issue here is to just graze the wall on the outside. Now, if you graze it, you are going to lose some time. But it's not going to be the end of the world if you graze it. If you hit it, obviously you're going to lose a lot more time. So just be careful of that here as we continue through the tunnel now and head towards the hairpin. So you can see this is all flat. Remember, short shifter Toyota Supra, I just said that earlier on. But you need to do that here as well as we continue on up here. Just be careful as you go through the right in the race, because you can get some understeer here from slipstream and dirty. Yes, just be careful of that. We head over towards the left-hand side and we stop it here where we've got the 150 board and then the pillar to the bridge above up ahead. Now, you want to brake just after the 150 board, but before that pillar. Now, for this corner, it's very much a slow-paced corner, but what I want you to do is get on the inside of this corner. It's all about getting out of this corner as quick as you can, because it's uphill as well. You just need to accelerate out this corner. The deeper you go, the more time you're going to lose here. I very much find a tight line here is just more beneficial, because you can just straighten up the car and go. So, just after the 150 board is what we're going to do. We're going to hit the brakes now. Notice how we stay towards the left initially, and then we're going to point towards the corner now. So, we're going to drop down to first gear. That gives us some rotation. I've got a bit too deep here, but I managed to bring it back, keeping it nice and tight. Perfect. So now I'm just being careful on throttle there. We accelerate out of the corner, and then we go up to second gear. Arguably, you should probably exit in second gear and not exit in first gear, but I found that the wheel spin actually just helps rotate the car a little bit more. That you will have to play with, to be honest with you. It depends on your driving style. I'm going to go up here now then, and we're going to head towards the left-hand side. Just be careful of this kink, because we're essentially joining another motorway here. So we're going to get towards the 50 board here, and this is your next marker, okay? So as it hits the top of your screen, what you're going to do here is you're going to brake just a tiny bit, and you're going to drop to fourth gear. And this corner arguably is the most critical part of this section, because if you get this right, you can carry the speed throughout this section. If you go too deep on this one, it compromises every single corner going forward. So you lose tons of time. So it's critical that you get this right. So it's better to not try and outbrake yourself for this corner. So the 50 board's going to hit the top of your screen. I'm going to dab the brakes now, and then I'm going to drop to fourth gear. And you're going to see me trail brake as well a lot to try and get the car on the inside. The more on the inside, the better. So I'm now being aggressive on throttle. I'm coming out of this corner. Now, I'm in the middle of the track right now. My best times were when I was further to the right-hand side. Now, I've stopped it here because there's this lamppost or flag indicator on the right-hand side. This is your turning marker for the left-hander. Now, if you're in the middle of the circuit, you're going to have to lift a little bit. If you're on the right-hand side, you don't have to lift. You can actually do this corner flat, which obviously then means you're going to carry a lot of speed into the right, so you'll have to lift more for that, but it's actually quicker to do it that way than the way I'm currently showing. So if you're further to the right, you'll be absolutely fine. Even so, I'm going to turn in now where that post is on the right side as it hits my edge of my screen as we go into this corner. Notice that I lifted off a little bit, I lift off a bit more, but I'm trying to carry the speed. We approach this moment here and we lift off again, trying to stay as close to the wall as possible. We accelerate through the corner, be careful about hitting the outside, but head over towards the right hand side. We get to this moment here where the 50 board is about to hit the top of your screen. You need to brake when it does. Now, for this corner, it's better to turn in late. It's better to turn in late and lose a tiny bit of time than to turn in too early, hit the inside, then the outside, and just completely destroy your lap. I can't tell you how many laps I failed this morning doing this on this final corner. It's so irritating, this corner, because the way it is, it's not what you expect. It really isn't. It's like my kryptonite, this corner. So I try and just brake that a little bit later now and just turn in a little bit later just to avoid hitting the wall on the inside. Notice how I do that there. I'm in third gear. You can short shift to fourth gear, but you can see how it sort of tightens on the exit, and that's where I was compromised on a lot of laps. The lap after this one, believe it or not, was on for a 0.6, and I didn't get it because of that last corner. It was very frustrating. But we get a 0.9 here as we continue on. We're going to go into a fast lap now. Remember, we're looking for the 50 board or the highway markers. We hit the brakes. We turn in now. We actually grazed the wall on the outside there as we continue on through here. Notice the graze didn't actually cost us too much time. We're going to head up here then. Remember, just before the 100 board, the lamppost on the right side is our brake marker. We drop down to second gear now. We click the first apex. Get the car rotated, accelerate a little bit, a bit more oversteer. Hit the next apex now, up to third gear. Now we hit the next one, we're cutting the inside. Over towards the left turn and get a little bit of oversteer, but managed to catch it absolutely fine. We're going to head up here. After the 50 board, at the highway markers, is when we're going to hit the brakes. We're going to do fourth gear for this one. Notice we're going to dab the brakes twice just to get the car on the inside, accelerate through. Doesn't matter if you graze it a little bit, it's absolutely fine, but now we're going to continue towards the hairpin. You can breathe now. You've got arguably the easier part of the two layouts, or the two parts of this circuit to do, in my opinion. I find the second part here better than the first part, except for that last corner. corner, which we will get to shortly because, again, that's like my kryptonite corner. But we're going to head towards the hairpin. This is a very obvious brake marker, very easy to see and actually do this corner. So over to the left-hand side, just after the 150 board, before the pillar, we hit the brakes, drop down to first gear now. Need to get it nice and tight. I just got a bit deep there, but I managed to bring it back nicely. Be careful on the exit here. Up to second gear we go, straighten up the car, continue on up the hill. Now remember, in these S's, the first one is the critical one. Get the first one right, you can get the rest of them right. You get the first one wrong, you're not getting any of them right. So 50 board here, hit the brakes, fourth gear, turn in, get it on the inside as much as you can, start to accelerate through the corner. Post on the right, so we lift off, we turn in, accelerate a bit more, lift off, turn in towards the right hand side, head over towards the right. 50 board is your brake marker. Brake just after that, third gear, turn in a bit late if you are hitting the wall on the inside. I'll say this is my kryptonite, but we continue on through. And once again, that was the 155.9 here at Tokyo. Now, there is time to be gained here. We're going to look at Delta and see where I'm losing the most time on this lap. Once again, I've loaded the fastest ghost that I could find on the leaderboard, and that's a 155.422. Remember, Delta, you can record replays and upload them to them. That's exactly what I've done right here. So we have half a second to find in this lap. We're going to try and find it using Delta once again, and in Delta, we will find it. We always find it in Delta. It's the good thing about it. Let's kick off this lap then as we head towards turn number 1. So we start the lap off very well, actually, because we're a little bit up here. As we go through turn 1, we do lose a little bit of time there. So in terms of apex speed, let's have a look at this. We're on the brakes that tiny bit earlier, so they're turning in a little bit later. And as we get to this point here, ooh, they actually slow the car down a little bit more. But as we leave this corner, they're just a little bit ahead. So it's just the fact that they brake a little bit later is where they get the time there. That's interesting stuff. Something we can improve on there. Just brake a tiny bit later. But it's arguably it's not a lot of time. It's half a tenth. But we also know that as we came into this corner, I did graze the wall a little bit. So potentially that's a part of that problem. Right, we're going to head towards the dock section now. Now, this is a big section. Are we going to lose time here? So as we continue on up here, we're 700ths down. So we've actually lost a bit more time actually on the straight there. Just looking at this. Yeah, we've lost more time here. So we're not short shifting enough by the looks of this at all. So we need to keep that in mind. We need to short shift that little bit more there. Right, we're going to get towards the brakes then as we come into here, as we go through there. Yeah, we do lose some time here. We lose about the same time again. So the first part is where we're losing it, it looks like. It's the exit here. So the first part is really difficult to identify here, not because of anything wrong with Delta. It's because it's the quadruple apex corner. So you can arguably go too strong into the first part and lose so much time on the exit, or you can go too weak in the first part and gain lots on the exit. So we really need to break this down a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in here now just a little bit. So as we come into here, we do gain a little bit of time there. So at this moment in time, they're carrying more speed through here. And then we start to match up there. So I lose the time because they're carrying more speed in. They've taken a tighter line. So they've actually taken a tighter line than I said. So I said about hitting the apex. I've gone out a bit wider. They've taken a tighter line, carried the speed. We've then ended up on the same line. I've then gone tighter on the second part, which brings the time back. So the first part, they went tighter. Second part, I went tighter. We get to this point here, okay. Then we're about even. And as we go through the left there, they're just carrying more speed through that point. So we get to this point here. So I'm carrying more speed, more speed, and more speed. They're just on throttle. Look, so I'm 60, 80%, 100. I'm still 80, and then we're 100. So we're just on throttle a bit too early there. That's the problem with that one then. Interesting to see indeed. Right, so let's stop clicking stuff here, Titch. So we're about 10.5 down then as we approach the fast right-hander. Something we need to do here is to be more confident on throttle as we go through there, and we'll actually get that time down a little bit. But we're not too far away at the moment, if I'm honest with you. There's still lots of time to be gained here. So we're going to head towards this fast right-hander. I'm on the brakes much earlier, so they're taking a wider line again, it looks like. Let's see if that is the case, though. We're going to zoom in a little bit here. As we go into this corner. So no, we're on about the same line there, but they do take a slightly tighter line, so they're closer to the wall. And look how much they get. They get a tenth on that corner. 1/10 basically on that corner, in my opinion. By the time you go from here to here, it's a tenth. So yeah, I need to improve there massively on that corner. That is a corner that is difficult to get right as well. So it makes sense. It does make sense. They're just carrying far more speed, and on the exit, they've just got more speed as well. So if we look at it from, let's just say here, we're 0.5 down. So if we go through the tunnel right now, we're 0.5 down. We're still, no, that gap is coming down. So we are changing correctly. Earlier on, we were just shifting a bit too late. So that must be a bad habit of some kind. So we're 2.5 temps down as we approach the hairpin here. Now, what happens here? So I'm on the brakes earlier again as we come into this corner. As we go through. So we lose another, nearly half a tenth there as we go through this corner. So we're just bleeding time everywhere at the moment. And it looks like all we're trying to do here, so as we come into here, we're just hitting the brakes a bit too early. We just need to brake that a little bit later as we go through here. Now, looking at this, yeah, see, they short shift a second on the exit. And that does benefit them a tiny bit as well. But we are matching speeds now as we go up here then. We're going to head into the S's, so I suspect... Wow! Okay, the first S, we lose so much time. Look at this! We lose a tenth of a second going into here. So as we get to this point here, 7 miles an hour difference. That's an improvement in a nutshell. And as we go through here, that doesn't change. That does not change. So we lose a lot in the first S, and I said it in the guide. Get the first S right, and you get the rest of the section right. Now, they do it better than I do, so they get it even more right. It's kind of nice to see that Delta tells me that information. It's quite clear and obvious here. Like in the middle of the corner, they are miles quicker. And that's because I didn't get it turned in enough. Remember, I did say that. Now, on their exit, to be fair, they're a bit wider than I am, but they carry more speed. They did carry more speed. And by the end of this section, they are literally ahead. Very interesting stuff. So we need to improve on the S's. Quite clear there. Hairpin, we need to improve a little bit. Just need to break that a little bit later on the hairpin. And critically, the docks, we just need to be a bit more aggressive on throttle there. So some key points that we've taken away here from Delta once again. Really interesting stuff. And it's how you can look at your lap as well. You know, I've very clearly picked out 3 things there to improve on. Aggression on throttle at the exit of the docks. We talked about carrying speed through some of these corners. I need to brake a little bit later into the hairpin. And then the S's, I just need to get that right. And I did say that in the lap guide itself. That's going to be it for me for this week's guide. I do hope you have enjoyed this as always. I've been Martin Grady, otherwise known as Tishney, here with Coach Dave Academy and the Gran Turismo channel. If you have enjoyed it, as always, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, stay in touch with all the latest content, and remember, you can leave comments down below as well. Once again, a big thank you for watching. Make sure you stay subscribed, and there'll be plenty more guides coming up this year for Gran Turismo 7.